I want to just say up front, I'm going to tell you, Ken, when to go to the next slide, but I'm very conscious this is a conversation based in white privilege. My goal is to be very vulnerable with all of you and to discuss money, which we don't like to discuss much in our culture, to tell my truth. I hope to inspire you to do something today in the short, near future. And also really just continue to be trying to build community. So let's go to the next slide. I thought I'd start out by just sharing a little bit about me and my background. So I am an inheritor. My great-grandfather on the top left there, Edmund Lyon, was a wealth creator. He was an inventor, a humanitarian, and an investor. My parents were activists. They talked about their values and they were extremely transparent throughout their life about their own money, wealth, and what they were doing with it, both in terms of investments, giving, and community building. I got the feminist power symbol there because I was born on the on the campus of the country's oldest all-girls school, Emma Willard, and I grew up with very strong women in my family and a father who led his life championing women's leadership. I spent my youth on a farm, grew up on a farm after we moved off campus. And I have had a lifelong connection to the Adirondack Mountains, and that's where my environmentalism got activated. Growing up and through my work, I've been exposed to many countries around the globe and cultures, and that's really important to me, and I deeply value diversity. I married a man, Jonathan Hops, who shares many of my strong social values, but grew up without money. And so that's been an interesting journey in our relationship. I'm a Unitarian Universalist, and so I'm very motivated by the interconnected web of life. I've spent my career in the nonprofit and philanthropy fields, and I'm motivated deeply by the world I want to leave my granddaughter in this picture and future generations beyond. So let's go to the next slide. So this is more than you'll ever want to see, but I want to highlight a few things. When I turned 21, I inherited a chunk of money. It wasn't enough to live on, but it was enough to give me a lot of choices and opportunities. My husband and I have worked full-time throughout our lives. We have savings and retirement money that we've put aside, and he is now retired, which has also been a shift in our financial situation. We own our own home. And in the last 5 years, I've inherited additional money from my mom's estate and my father's estate. In 2013, I had an aha moment, which was really kind of the flip getting switched for me about what the hell is in my name and investment wise, where's my money sleeping? And I needed to pay attention. And I had been, I would say, a pretty hands-off person, just letting our family financial advisor do their thing. So in 2018, I left my traditional family advisor after trying to make a bunch of investments on my own that they were not only not supportive of, but actually intentionally tried to block me on some stuff. And that was really like it for me. So I left and I now work with North Fork Financial, which Bill Stoddard started, one of our other fellows. And let's go to the next slide. These were all the organizations that have impacted me and I've been part of or influenced by. So I'll share the slides with everybody after this if you guys want. So by 2017, I knew I needed to leave that family advisor, and I really didn't want, wanted to go from feeling like the left side of the picture to the right side of the picture. And in fact, I can tell you, I do feel that way. So I want to say a few things. I'm not interested in losing money, but I don't seek to amass a fortune. I think there are lots of different kinds of returns, monetary as well as emotional and others. I find now that deploying capital can actually be interesting and nourishing to my soul, which I, 10, 15 years ago would have laughed if somebody said that. And it's really important that my money is not harmful to the planet or other human beings. And I'm really grounded in the natural world, and from my activism there, I love the fact that old growth forests grow at 3.5%, and that is sustainable over time. And so that's like, I want to put a pin in that because it's something that has been helpful to me in terms of thinking about returns. Next slide, please. Again, I'm not going to read this, but before we went to North Fork, my husband and I met and had a long conversation about what was important to us. And we wrote a preamble for an investment policy statement that was going to really help direct how we worked with North Fork. And we shared this with our children, and they had, who are at the time, they were in their early mid-20s, and they had a lot to say and a lot to add. So I just want to lift that up as well. Next slide. So, kind of basic goals in terms of where we ended up here, right? We need money to support our lifetime, our retirement, our personal pursuits, and we also tend to like to give charitably, both in terms of money to organizations that have a 501c3 status, but we also have done a lot of loaning and gifting to individuals throughout our life, and that to me is an important part of my philanthropy. We wanted to steward resources in a sound way and stay within constraints of the statutory and regulatory constraints. And these are the different issue areas that we highlighted as being really where we wanted to zero in on. And I've pulled the Sustainable Development Goals, which also helped our conversations as we were thinking about what we were going to do. Next slide, please. So I want to, before I kind of get into the details on this, and Ken, I think you maybe have an old version of this. But let me talk for a minute about the fact that we, from a very kind of 40,000 foot level of our financial plan, we have an overall investment strategy of 20% of our assets being in fixed income and 80% of our assets being in equities. And of that, 20% of our assets are invested off of Wall Street, and I manage those. And I'll talk about that in a minute. 80% of our assets are then managed by North Fork. And I use them to bounce ideas off of as well, even though they're not doing full deal due diligence for us. They've been a great thought partner to me. For our public fixed income, we have utilized the Calvert screened municipal bond ladder, and that is allowed us to basically say, listen, we don't want to own bonds that are funding police. We don't want to own municipal bonds that are funding things that we don't feel particularly aligned with. And so through that bond ladder, which is managed by a company called Parametric, we were able to put in very specific information of like what we wanted in and out of it. So, and that was a little bit of a labor of love, but I wanted our fixed income to really reflect our values as well. Ken, do you want me to share?
Is it easy to do? I'm sorry if I missed out on a slide here.
Yeah, hang on.
I think I got the slide. I've got it here.
Okay,
My apologies.
no problem. So when we started off, in 2013 when I had my aha moment. 0% of our assets were aligned with our values, and I mean zero. And after 12 years of working on this, we're now at 96%. And I'm going to walk through what we've done and where we have work to do. So you can go to the next one. So we believe it makes sense to think about our money in two different buckets. Started out being many more buckets, now I'm down to two. So we have what we call our ultimate bucket, and that holds investments that address our desire to help create wealth for others through employee ownership, through cooperative ownership, care for the planet, how to change externalities to positives, and it hits on almost all our values. And then we have a trying to do no harm bucket, which I kind of will put those bonds in that because I'm not sure that they're really the ultimate bucket, but at least we're like trying to screen them in a way that is better than not. So let me take you to, do you have a cash slide there, Ken?
There we go.
Here we go. So first thing we did when we switched and got aligned and trying to move in this direction, we got rid of our credit cards that were underwriting fossil fuel expansion. We moved to a credit union for all of our banking, and I now hold cash in CDs at Clean Energy Credit Union, which is providing funding for clean energy loans to individuals and businesses. On average, the cash that we hold in these places earns about 4%. Then with private debt, and this is the stuff that I'm managing, our return rates vary between 2% and 9.25%. So if you average it out, it's about 5.1%. And these are both some funds and also some individual holdings. And I will say that we've done a fair amount in sort of the solar space and climate. We also have had a focus. We live in Maine, and so Genesis is a community loan fund here. We have a significant holding with them because we love what they do in our great state of Maine. So again, later, if anybody has questions about this stuff, I'm happy to talk about it. And one of the things that I would just hold up here too is my husband and I were the first individual investors in 2D's Tempeh, which is a super cool small Maine company, women run and employee owned, and they represent so much of the things that we care about. Let's go to the next one. So this is our trying to do no harm bucket. And our public equities, on average, are earning about 9%. I am a NIA Impact Capital Global Fund holder. And then these other 5 funds are part of a series of funds that our advisor, North Fork, has put together. And these are all funds that are being actively managed, meaning they are doing stock shareholder advocacy. That's a big switch for us. We used to own things that had no advocacy whatsoever. I think the other piece that I would say here is that through our work with North Fork, we're able to see the actual impact of their funds. And so I can talk about that later. I own 2 particular public equities that I bought. BYD is a Chinese electric car and train manufacturer. And Samsara is a company, it's tech, but they are really helping municipalities to drive down carbon particularly with municipal fleets, among other things that they do. Next slide. Then the 4% of our other assets here are the 5 things that we have them in. I've have Microsoft and MasterCard, Cloudflare, and Acre focus funds those are all inherited assets, and I over time anticipate moving those. I haven't moved them yet because of capital gains situation that I'm dealing with. So I just wanted to be transparent and say, here's the stuff in my portfolio that I'm not crazy about. And then Charles Schwab is a platform that we use, and I do keep some cash in their money market, and that's not particularly aligned. So before I started this process, this is a picture of a piece of sculpture in China, and when I saw this, I thought, wow, this like feels like how I felt like when I looked at my portfolio. And before 2013, it was just like a bunch of stuff and it didn't make any sense to me. And now that we've worked on this alignment, you can go to the next slide. We have a very different picture, and that's the same piece of sculpture, and you just get into the right alignment and it all makes sense. So I'm a visual person, so I thought that was kind of a cool way to show how I feel emotionally about where I'm at. And then I think I have one last slide. Yeah, so lessons that I've learned. It took a lot of bravery to get rid of our family advisor for a variety of reasons. And it required me also to talk to many members of my extended family about why we were leaving and have conversations that some of them didn't want to have. But it was probably the best thing we've done so far, is to find an advisor to work with who is not purposely blocking us, is not making me feel belittled, stupid, and to have somebody who will ask really good questions of me without making me feel like I'm about that big. And I think the lesson we learned also was just when in doubt, just get going. Like I said about our credit cards, we put solar on our house. My husband didn't want to move his retirement the way I wanted to move my money originally, because he came from nothing and he was really like, I'm freaked out about that. So we just slowly over the course of a year kept supporting each other and getting to where we are now. I think trusting your gut, like nobody is a expert in their values other than you. And to keep learning, which we're doing here today. And I do believe the more you share, the more you learn. So I'm happy to share these slides after today, and happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you so much, Tory. That was absolutely wonderful. And just